Our next candidate is General Bernie Skoch. General, if you stand up.
I'm standing up so everyone can see how tall I am. Folks, you're going to hear from 7 of us today how conservative we are. And I predict if you ask any one of the 7 of us where we stand on the Second Amendment, every one of us will tell you that we're for gun rights. I am. I've got one of those nasty assault rifles and the M9 pistol I was issued when I got to be a general. Every one of us will tell you that we're pro-life. Every one of us will tell you that it's about smaller government and doing the right thing. Every one of us will tell you it's about states' rights. Every one of us will tell you it's about reducing the federal budget. How are you going to decide? You have got a very difficult decision in 86 days. There's a group of us up here. I predict there are more to come. If we'd done this about a month ago, there would have been 2 of us. And isn't it remarkable how now that the incumbent has decided to go seek his political fortunes elsewhere, other people are now saying, I think I want that office too. Folks, this is about moral conviction. You are going to have to peer into our eyes. You're going to have to decide for yourselves which one of us has the most integrity, which one of us has the most intellect to be able to deal with these complicated problems, which one of us is ready to go to Washington and do the right thing and shrink the government. I will tell you, we have a number of issues that we need to deal with, and some have been touched on already. We are in debt. We owe $12 trillion. If we are to divide that by every man, woman, and child in America, that is $40,000 apiece. And if you divide it among just the people who pay taxes like you and me, it's $117,000. How are we ever going to pay that off? Now, I'm not about to propose what I'm suggesting, what I'm going to talk about here, but if we wanted to join the European Union, and I'm not proposing it, if we wanted to adopt the euro as our currency, I'm sure not proposing it, we would not be allowed to do that because our debt is so high. The European Union would not accept the United States because our debt to gross domestic product ratio is now 80%. Economists will tell you at 80%, your currency gets devalued, rampant inflation explodes, and you have an economic crisis, and it is right around the corner, folks. We have got to do something dramatic. Our budget deficit is $1.4 trillion this year. We keep spending more and more. Let me tell you about a second issue, and it's been touched on. We have between 12 and 22 million illegal immigrants in the United States of America today. All but about 500,000 of them came across the southern border. Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas, has 15,590 babies born every year. In the first quarter of 2006, they measured 70% of those babies were born to illegal immigrants. Now I ask you, why is this so? How did we get here? What happened that we managed to be in debt $40,000 apiece, and my 11 grandchildren, and your children, and your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren will be paying for it? How did it come to be? No rational person in the world would pass a budget like we've got. No rational person in the world would have a deficit every year that is like ours, 11% of everything we make and produce and sell in America in a year. Greece is the basket case economy of Europe. Their deficit to GDP ratio is 13%. Ours is 11%. Folks, we're hanging on the brink. We need dramatic action. Now I ask you to ask yourselves as you're choosing what to do here, peer into our eyes and ask yourself who understands the issues. Peer into our eyes and ask yourself who hasn't been part of the problem. I have come to the conclusion that our fundamental issue is how we choose people to represent ourselves. The Founding Fathers intended the House of Representatives to be made up of people who are representative of us. They did not intend the House of Representatives to be yet another step in a political career. The House of Representatives. Now I ask you, how do we deal with this? What do we do? Well, you've got a choice. You've got a choice on May 18th. One of the definitions of insanity is we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get different results. Folks, when Congress's approval rating in 2008 was hovering at 20%, we re-elected over 90% of the congressmen. Because we want to get rid of all those bums, but we want to keep our bum. We want to get rid of all the politicians, but we want to keep our politician. I will offer that this race is fundamentally about three things. First, what are we going to do about the national debt? I invite you to read the paper that I published last week. We call it Critical Challenge Number 1, and it will be followed by Critical Challenge 2 here in about a week and a half. And in it, I outline 6 specific things we need to do to fix this problem. The first thing we need to do is quit electing politicians. We need representatives. The second thing we need to do, we need to pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. And the list goes on and on. Now, several of my colleagues here are politicians. Several of them boast about what they have brought back to their areas out of funding. I will tell you that process goes on and on. In the year 2009, over 10,000 earmarks were inserted into legislation in the U.S. Congress. 10,000 times legislators put pork in bills that they didn't belong in. We've got to stop that process. I believe is illegal immigration, and we've got to deal with it. And I've outlined 6 specific steps that we can do to get rid of that problem, and it's published in a white paper, and we'll get a copy to you if you want it. Now, the other issue that you don't hear us talking a whole lot about is our national security, and you've heard discussions of our debt. We owe China $800 billion. And the point is lost on us if we talk about how that influences our economy. Just last week, Chinese generals called on their national leadership to punish the United States by dumping our securities on the market. Can you imagine $1 trillion of our securities being dumped on the market? Folks, this is serious business. It's about national security, it's about our economy, and it's about illegal immigration. Thank you very much.